The following is a presentation of the Broadband Universe, brought to you in part by Vitruvi, the end-to-end GIS-based construction management platform that connects asset owners, operators, general contractors, and subcontractors for unmatched project control and collaboration. Manage every aspect of your telecommunications or utility infrastructure construction program with Vitruvi. Build faster, reduce costs, improve quality. Book your demo today on vitruvisoftware.com to see how we can help you build at scale. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broadband Universe podcast. I am Craig Corbin, and it is a pleasure to welcome today's guest, Mr. Rob Chambers, the Managing Director of Total Telecom. And Rob, welcome to the Broadband Universe.
Thanks a lot, Craig. It's fantastic to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Indeed, it is a busy time for you and your team with regard to what is coming up in just a number of days, quite honestly. Based in Dallas, the Connected America event, that's going to be the theme of our talk today. But before we get to that, a lot of folks might not know the story of Total Telecom. Give us that 30,000-foot overview, if you would.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Craig. I suspect an awful lot of people actually don't know us, even though I'm always pleased to say that the United States actually makes up the largest proportion of our audience, actually.
Right.
But we're a publishing house. We've been publishing for the telecoms and media sector, as Total Telecom since 1997. Before that, some people who've been around the industry for long enough might recognise the names Communications International and Communications Week International. We were the European or international arm, if you like, of a US title called Communications Week, which I think stopped publishing a few years ago.
Right.
So we've been around for a long time, publishing predominantly for telecom operators. Increasingly, the telco market isn't as encapsulated as it once was. You know, it's much more tech and public sector and users as well. But we've been doing this for a long time. And then back in 2004, Total Telecom was purchased by a company called Telecom, who I think some people in the United States probably will know. We run events as well called, a range of things like home delivery, which has been going for many years in Philadelphia, and also Move America down the road from where we're going to be in Austin, which has been going for a few years now. So we've been around for a little while.
Absolutely. And speaking of what is part of the organization, congratulations on celebrating this year the 25th anniversary of the World Communication Awards. That is phenomenal, a quarter century.
It is. You make me feel old, Craig. I founded them originally, actually, for the business, but I did wander off and leave in between and then come back. But yeah, it's been around for a long time, and that's one of our landmark events each year. It's the biggest recognition of excellence for the telecoms industry. Pretty much any operator who's anyone will have entered or won a World Communication Award at some stage in their career. And maybe they're a good example of how we operate. It's all about credibility. You know, we have best part of 100 judges, for example, this year.
Wow, that is impressive, and again, congratulations for that. You know, we made mention right off the top about Connected America, the excitement for this inaugural event. But in order to properly tell that story, I suppose that we ought to begin with the parent organization and event, Connected Britain. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, it's you're right. That is the foundation for Connected America. Connected Britain has now been around since 2015, and the story of why we do Connected Britain is actually not dissimilar to why we're doing Connected America now. Back in 2015, the UK was definitely behind the curve when it came to connectivity, in particular fibre rollout. The landscape was very dominated by British Telecom, by BT. And there was a great appetite for a faster rollout out of internet, better internet for more people. Now we saw an opportunity in there, not just to talk to the telecom operators, but also to bring in other parts of the community. So bring in the local government level, to bring in the national government, the federal government level, to bring in the representatives of the users of communications, whether they be business or individuals, to bring in the suppliers, the vendors, and bring all those people together. So back in 2015, we launched an event in a hotel ballroom, which we were very pleased with. We had, I think it was 214 attendees and 40 speakers, and they all talked about building out networks. The game's moved on a bit since then. We no longer call it a telecoms event, it's a digital economy event. This year we'll have 12 tracks. Only one of those is actually about building networks. The rest of it's about what communities need from their networks, what we're doing to close the digital divide, what industries want from it, what infrastructure wants from it, building smart places, all of those kind of good things, which is why we're actually doing this anyway, how it's changing people's lives. And people have got on board with it. It's the largest event of its type in Britain. This year we'll have 5,000 attendees,
nice.
More than 300 speakers, 350 sponsors and partners, 13,000 square metres. So that's
wow.
That's an awful lot of square feet.
Yes, it is. And my goodness, Rob, congratulations on the growth of Connected Britain and what it has become. And really intrigued with something you mentioned just a second ago, the fact that you have a dozen tracks and only one deals with building out network. That shows how much of the world telecom touches. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, it does. Look, I'm not a technical guy, so I'll say this to technical people and they'll shudder and say, "You're really, Rob." But in a sense, building out the networks conceptually is pretty easy, and lots of people run events about doing this. What we're all really interested in is the why. Why do we do this? Things like the pandemic have accelerated that for everybody. The need to be able to work at home, to live our lives at home, to educate our families at home, to entertain ourselves, to put in social security requests, to book healthcare, to run our factories. Everything is connected these days, and that's why our events aren't really just about building the networks. Yes, they all touch on technology. Every stream will talk about technology in some sense or another. But they're not just there for a bunch of people to talk about the technicalities of one tech versus another and how to build it. In fact, we're quite agnostic about technology. The big discussion is always around about fibre. But actually, if you talk about the public, they just want connectivity to work. They don't care if it's fibre, they don't care if it's 5G, they don't care if Elon Musk gets it right and satellite becomes the...
Just give us connectivity.
Give us connectivity at a reasonable price, that's reliable, and that does what we want. And so that's what we talk about, is what people are doing with it.
Well, and another point that I was so impressed with when you talked about what this year's Connected Britain event will have, that many speakers, 300 speakers, that is phenomenal. It also speaks, I think, to the acceptance that what you're doing with that event truly has served a very positive purpose. And so hats off to you and the Total Telecom team for that, which is the wonderful segue into what was the genesis for replicating Connected Britain with Connected America?
Yeah. Well, Connected America isn't our only other foray into a connected event. We followed up Connected Britain with Connected Ireland, Connected Germany, Connected Italy, and now we do a second event in Britain called Connected North. So we've got a bit of a track record in doing these now. The fundamental behind all of these events is that you've got to be talking about localities where there is a need to improve the position on the internet, to improve access, to improve price, to reduce the digital divide. So there's got to be a need for it. There's got to be a political will and a financial will to make it happen as well. Right. And when all these things come into alignment, when the stars align, if you like, then we have the potential to do a connected event. Now, we had looked at America for quite a long time. It's a very large country, as I'm sure you know. I don't know how accurate the figures are, but I think I'd say 330 odd million people. UK's about 70 million. It's vast compared to our market, and so in some senses we probably looked at that and said it's a big opportunity, but it's a big one to take on. On the other hand, the ambition, I think you could say, is there in the United States now. The political will is certainly there, certainly with the Infrastructure Act. The funding is there at a federal level, and that's obviously being matched or probably beaten, I suspect, by the funding that's going to come available from other sources as well. So,
right.
So you've got demand, you've got political will, you've got money, and you've got a lot of interest from people in making this happen now. So our view was that it's now or never. The things like the broadband offices have been rolling out ever since this came through. There's a lot of people moving into jobs about building out connectivity that didn't exist before. I found it fascinating to look at some of the people working in broadband offices, and they come from a whole range of different backgrounds before, which makes them very hard to find sometimes.
Sure.
But there's a lot of people with a lot of appetite for knowledge. They want to meet with each other. They want to meet with different states. They want to meet with the people at the federal level who are making it happen. And they want to meet as well with the operators, whether it be the huge, the AT&Ts, the Comcasts, the T-Mobiles, or whether it be the localised players, which are the equivalent of what we call in the UK the altnets, but they're right. Basically the disruptors in that market.
Sure.
And bringing all that together is really what we're trying to do.
Without question, the perfect recipe for a phenomenal event. You're watching the Broadband Universe podcast, brought to you by Lit Communities. Light up your community. You deserve better internet. By Vetro FiberMap, radically simpler fiber management. And by Vitruvi, build faster, reduce costs, and improve quality. My guest today, Rob Chambers, Managing Director of Total Telecom, the London-based organization putting on Connected America. And we're talking about the why for Connected America. Let's talk about the how, putting together a phenomenal agenda, just diving into the agenda for this two-day event, a who's who of names in the world of broadband and telecom here in the States. It's a tremendous list of speakers. Again, congratulations on putting together a phenomenal roster.
Thank you, Craig. It's incredible putting together these kind of people, and it's always the case of getting the first domino to fall. I think the thing is, and this is again, it's true of everything we do. You do need some huge names in there, and we've got some huge names here. You've got Chris Samba, who I'm particularly looking forward to, the president of AT&T Network. This guy's, I'm sure you all know this, but this guy's in charge of 70% of AT&T's network investment. He's got $20 billion in his back pocket.
Yes.
Well, that's quite a fund, isn't it? People like Kim McKinley from Utopia, who's really been shaking the place up. Scott
Phenomenal.
Woods from Ready.net. Gary Bolton from the Fibre Broadband Association. There's some really big names in there. Some really exciting speakers and organisations. But then it's also actually about bringing together smaller organisations as well. Now, that can be, in a sense, is more of a challenge because you're perhaps bringing together names that people don't recognise. They don't immediately necessarily look at it and say, I've got to see that person. But then look at what they're talking about. We've got panels on things like inclusive connectivity. How does the tech come together? What's the benefit for communities? And there's some smaller names on there, but then you've got people like the FCC are on it.
Sure.
We're getting down into some of the nitty-gritty. There's some great stuff on agriculture, how connectivity is changing agriculture. And that's, again, it's bringing in some organisations you wouldn't expect necessarily. Amazon Web Services are talking about that. Do you really think of AWS on a farm? I'm not sure whether it's...
Not really, but that's a great point, though, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the panels, because that's the perfect segue. Yes, the keynote speakers, very important, but quite honestly, for my money, I think that your panel discussions will be the true value statements for the attendees for Connected America, because a wide range of very important topics, and I would certainly invite anyone who is interested to examine the agenda in detail. And one quick plug, in order to best guide people to where they can find more information about the event, how can they best do that?
Oh, well, the best place to do that's the website. The web address isn't too hard. It's totaltele.com/connectedamerica. The Total Tele is the trick. It's totaltele.com.
Love that.
totaltele.com/connectedamerica. But come to that, and it's all about the agenda on there.
Absolutely. And of course, the where and the when. Dallas, it'll be the Irving Convention Center, conveniently located just a hop, skip, and a jump from DFW, so no worries with transport there. Coming up the 28th, 29th of the month, with the theme Delivering America's Connected Future. And we talked about the fact that it was the perfect recipe for having the event to begin with. Timing couldn't be better from my perspective, given what you just talked about, the funding that's coming down the pike, what will take place in the next 5-10 years here in the U.S. It will be transformative with opportunities that we've never seen before. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, it is going to be, and I think this is the interesting point. You look, I don't know, 2-3 years, probably longer, because these things always get delayed, down the line, and the funding will be at one level sorted out. The build will be happening. The build is never going to be done, in a sense, because although people say you put fibre in, and I think I've heard people say put fibre in once, you won't have to do it again. Well, you will, because there's opportunities down the track that no one's thinking about yet. The things that we think are clever now, the speed of development is accelerating all the time. Things like the metaverse will probably start to actually happen rather than just being a buzzword. But we're actually going to have to connect more and more things. We do talk about smart cities, but actually it's smart places, really, because it's smart things. You think about the demand to put in infrastructure for your electric car. I was reading something last week about the difficulty of uptake on electric vehicles in parts of the States, because some people are travelling distances that are regularly that are longer than their range for charge. Now, your charging points don't work unless they're networked. All the things that fall under this buzzword of the Internet of Things, the buzzword will probably die out, but more and more things will be connected. The demand for people to do meetings without having to travel all the time. Probably people are going to want to come to events more, actually, because they're going to want to travel less to individual meetings, because those they can do on network meetings. It's really impossible to say where it's going to end. It's probably not going to end. and that's why I think these events, they're not just about building the network, because it's the whole thing's evolving. How are drug companies going to use technology for their production lines? Sure. How are educators going to use it in schools? All of this kind of stuff is evolving the whole time, and is going to continue to, and ever more rapidly.
And how will intelligent infrastructure play a role in all of that together? As we begin winding down the conversation, and again, Rob, huge thanks for being able to get an insight on Connected America. I'll ask that traditional crystal ball question. Look down the line into the future, and where do you see this event evolving in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'd like to see the event following a similar trajectory to that we've seen with Connected Britain. I think that this year, for a launch year, we're going to have something around about 1,000 odd people in attendance. We've got over 150 speakers. The trajectory we've seen with almost all connected events, and I hope will replicate here, is a double year on year, and they will keep that up for a fairly good pace for a few years. So I'd like to see us double it next year and the year after that. By then, you're talking about an event which is going to be 4,000 to 5,000 people. I don't see why that should be the limit either. You're talking about such a huge market. You're talking about so many people from different sectors who are going to want to become involved. That I think the event could be as large as we've got the energy to produce.
Absolutely. Well, so excited. Can't wait to meet you in person and the Total Telecom team there at Connected America in Dallas coming up in a few short days. Again, congratulations on getting this off the ground. Look forward to seeing the event in person. And thank you again for being part of the Broadband universe.
Craig, thanks for the invite. I've been touched by the warmth of the welcome we've had from so many partners bringing this over there. So I'm really looking forward to meeting them all in Dallas and seeing where we can take this. I think it's going to be fun.
No doubt about it. On behalf of Rob, thanks for letting us be a part of your day. We'll see you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long, everyone.
Bye-bye.